My grandparents had other plans for my fortune than what my parents wanted. They wanted to give my share to their favorite daughter. Favoritism runs in my family for a long time, and in a lot of different ways. My parents have always liked my younger sister Amy, 25F, more than me. Especially my dad. This unfair treatment began when we were kids and got worse as we grew up. Amy has always been the good kid, even when I was very young. I was 5 years old and she was 2. For her birthday, our parents threw a big party with a bouncy castle, a petting zoo, and professional face paints. That same year for my birthday, I had a small dinner with my family and a cake from the store. This set the tone for many years. We could see the differences more clearly as we aged. Amy had the coolest toys, the coolest clothes, and the most attention all the time. When I was 10, I put away my pay for months so I could buy a new bike. Amy had a temper fit when she saw it because she wanted one too. Instead of teaching her how to wait or save money, my parents got her a bike right away that was even better than mine. Another place where the bias was clear was at school. They always made it to Amy's school events, but they missed a lot of mine. I played the lead in the school play when I was in the 4th grade. I worked on it for weeks because I was so excited. My parents were an hour late. They missed my big scene on the night of the performance. They said Amy had a stomachache and were putting her to sleep. In the end, I learned she was okay. They were having fun with her and had forgotten how much time had passed. I never felt like anything I did in school was good enough. I always got straight A's in middle school, joined the math club, and even won a science fair in my area. My parents didn't even notice these accomplishments. But when Amy got a B on one test in her worst subject, they threw her a party and bought her a new phone to encourage her to keep doing well. It was really hard in high school. I participated in as many things as I could in order to get their approval. I had a 4.0 GPA, was captain of the debate team, and was editor of the school newspaper. Amy, on the other hand, barely kept up a C average in school and spent most of her time hanging out with friends. I was one of only 2 kids from my school to be chosen to go to a prestigious summer program at Harvard during my junior year. I was thrilled and honored. My dad got angry when I told him the news at dinner and quickly changed the subject to Amy's upcoming dance performance. At least my mom said that's nice, but she didn't stay there for long. My parents couldn't drive me to the airport the night of Amy's recital because they didn't want to miss her performance. That same day I was going for Harvard. I needed a ride and had to ask a friend's parents for one. The process of applying to college was also very painful. I worked on it for months. These include my writings, activities outside of school, and studying for the SATs. I got into a few really great universities and got a big grant to go to my dream school. When I told my parents about this at dinner, they didn't say much in answer. That's good, but don't let it get to you, my dad told me. It's not all about college. My mom also said, don't forget about us while you're busy becoming famous, when Amy almost finished high school and chose not to go to college. On the other hand, my parents were totally on board. They told her she was great for being true to herself and not giving in to social forces. They even gave her a car as a graduation present, which is something they never did for me. It hurt me a lot to feel like I was always being favored. During my teens and early 20s, I had a lot of problems with anxiety and sadness. Going to therapy in college helped me learn that it wasn't my fault that my parents were acting the way they were. Building up my self-esteem took years of work, and I was able to make a good life for myself, even though my close family didn't help me. I got good grades in college, got a good job in business, and even bought my own house by the time I was 27. Some people aren't proud of what I've done, but I am. Right now, this is where the story starts. My grandpa from my dad's side died not long ago. His business career was very good, and he made a lot of money from nothing. He also left behind a large estate. His will said that his children, my dad and his brothers and grandchildren, me, Amy and our cousins, would each get an equal share of his property. My part of the inheritance was a big one, about $500,000. I could have used the money to pay off my school loans, save for the future, and maybe even start my own business one day. I was thankful for this surprise windfall and the chances it could open up. But when the will was read, it was clear that my parents were upset. Afterward, they told me they didn't think it was fair that I got the same amount as everyone else. They said Amy really needed the money as she was having a hard time. She lives in the basement of our parents' house and works part-time at a coffee shop. I was shocked, but I tried not to show it. I told them that Grandpa had made this choice and that they couldn't change it. They told me I was being fair and should give Amy my share. When I said no, they got mad and started making me feel bad by saying I was selfish and not thankful. My dad talked about all the times they had helped me that he could think of. He said he would pay for my braces, which were medically necessary, buy me the bare necessities for school, and let me live at home while I was in college, even though I worked part-time to help pay the bills. He forgot about the car they bought Amy, all the shopping trips they took her on, and the fact that they're still paying her bills even though she's 25. Things got worse very quickly. As the person in charge of carrying out the will, my dad chose to do things on his own. He said that he was going to change Grandpa's plans and give Amy my whole share on top of her own inheritance. He told us that this is what Grandpa would have wanted if he knew about our situation. It broke my heart. This was clearly against the law, and it hurt to remember how little my parents cared about me. I tried to talk them down by telling them that Grandpa had always been fair to all of his grandkids and that he knew what was going on with us. Then my mom told me I was disrespectful to the dead because I thought Grandpa would have wanted something different from what my dad was offering. When I told my parents about specific memories of Grandpa supporting my academic and job goals, they said I was just misremembering them. They said that Amy's grandfather had secretly worried about her future and wanted to make sure she was taken care of. They couldn't tell me why he hadn't just written the will that way. For her part, Amy seemed to not like what was going on. We didn't say anything bad about our parents. She just shrugged and said, "Mom and Dad know best," when I tried to talk to her alone. It was clear that she wouldn't help. I asked my paternal grandmother, who was Grandpa's widow, for help because I felt hurt and misled. When she heard what was going on, she was angry. She told me that Grandpa had not meant for this to happen and that my parents had no right to change the will. Grandma gave us some new information that helped us understand what was going on. Someone told me that my parents had asked Grandpa a few years ago to leave Amy everything in his will. Grandpa had strongly refused, saying that he thought all of his grandkids should be treated the same. He even put a clause in his will that said anyone who argued against the fair distribution would lose their part. With this information in hand, I talked to my parents about it. When Grandma told them about their previous efforts to change the will, they were shocked. They said they were just looking out for Amy's future, but I could tell they felt bad about what they did. Grandma did something right away. She called her lawyer and the other people in charge of carrying out the will. She also talked to my dad's brothers, who were just as angry about what he was trying to do. They stopped my dad's plan and made sure that the will would be carried out exactly as written. They had to give in, but my parents are still mad at me. They said I turned their family against them and told me I should have handled this myself instead of getting other people involved. My mom cried because she thought I had hurt them and split the family up. When my dad said he would cut me off from them completely, I told him I didn't expect anything from them anyway. They are now saying they will cut me off totally if I take their money. My dad even told me I couldn't stay in their house anymore if I took the fortune. My mom told me in a very mean way that taking the money shows I never really loved them and was just waiting to make money off of their deaths. The whole family has different opinions on the matter. Some of my cousins are on my side. They know about the long-standing bias and are proud that I stood up for myself. Some people say I should have given up to keep the peace because family unity is more important than money. There is trouble between my parents and my dad's brothers because they are on my side. Amy is in the middle of all of this. She told me alone that she didn't want this and feels bad about it, but she doesn't want to fight our parents. That's not all I blame her for. She has learned her whole life to depend on them and look for their praise. Still, there's a part of me that wants her to help me just this once. A lot of old hurt and anger has come up because of this situation. Thinking about all the times Amy was given more attention than me makes me feel bad. The school events my folks missed and the birthday parties I didn't have. The things that were done that weren't noticed. In this one event, it seems like years of unfairness are coming to a head. I'm not giving up, and I plan to accept my fortune the way my grandfather wanted. However, the whole thing has caused a big rift in the family. My parents don't talk to me very often, and family events are tense and awkward now. I missed our family dinner once a month last week for the first time ever, because I didn't want to deal with the judgy looks and cold shoulders. A small part of me feels strong. For the first time in my life, I'm not going to put up with how my parents treat me badly. I'm standing up for myself and refusing to be pushed to the side. It's both scary and freeing at the same time. Though I think I'm in the right place, the stress from my family is getting to me. I'm having anxiety attacks again, which is something I haven't had since college. I might go back to therapy to help me deal with all this stress. Am I a jerk for taking my inheritance and not giving in to what my folks want? To keep the peace, should I have just given Amy the money? I'm sick of being blamed by my family, but I'm also afraid of losing them all. We'd welcome any advice or point of view. Changes. A lot has happened since my first post, which was about 6 months ago. Everyone has helped me and given me good tips. It helped me a lot to stay strong when things were tough. First, let me talk about what the law says. Many of you recommended that I talk to my own lawyer, which I did. His word was that what my dad was trying to do was against the law, and that I had every right to my property. He helped me write down everything, and was ready to go to court if I needed to. Thank goodness that didn't happen. Things were worked out between my grandmother, her lawyer, and my dad's brothers without having to go to court. As written, the will was carried out, and I got my whole fortune. My dad was taken off as an administrator because he tried to change the will. It was very stressful and took a few weeks to finish this. There were tense talks, heated phone calls, and even a few times when my parents said they would sue. But in the end, they had to give up because the law was clear. But the effects on the family have been big and are still going on. When I first asked them, my parents pushed back even more. They said I was selfish and didn't care about my sister. They even tried to get other family members to turn against me by saying I had lied or tricked Grandpa into leaving me money. Lucky for them, most of the family saw through their lies. A family get-together about a month after the will was settled had one very bad event. My parents showed up without being asked. They showed up, even though my aunt hadn't asked them to, which made a mess. My father began to yell that I had stolen from Amy and turned Grandma against them. My mom threw an old picture album at me in a big way and told me I ruined all these happy memories. It was painful and embarrassing, and it took several family members to calm things down and ask my parents to leave. My grandmother, bless her heart, was my biggest supporter during this whole thing. She told me stories about how my grandfather was always proud of what I had done, and how he wanted all of his grandkids to feel the same way, had the same chances. She even told me that my grandfather had kept a scrapbook of all the good things I had done. Awards from school events, letters of acceptance to college, and even the program from the school play that my parents were late to. The news of this was both heartwarming and sad. Grandma also took it upon herself to tell the rest of the family the truth. At a family meeting that didn't include my parents, she told everyone about how my parents had been biased against others in the past. I had forgotten about or never even heard of these events. Someone finally recognizing the unfair treatment I had been through for years made me feel better, but it also brought up old scars. My sister Amy finally found her voice through all of this. After some deep thought, and a few long talks with our grandmother, she came up to me alone and said she was sorry she hadn't stood up for me sooner. She said she knew our parents' preference was wrong but had been afraid to speak out against it. Our childhood, and how it affected both of us, made us cry for a long time. Amy said she didn't think being the favorite kid was as fun as she thought it was. She was under a lot of stress to meet our parents' high standards, so she never learned how to walk on her own. It was hard for her to do things on her own sometimes because our parents would step in and do everything for her. This kept her from growing and learning from her mistakes. Our relationship took a big step forward after this talk. We began to fix the relationship between us that had been broken by our parents' preference. We've been getting coffee together every week, just the two of us, to talk and help each other get through this family chaos. Amy shocked everyone when she said she was going to college with the money she got from her fortune. Watching me stand up for myself made her want to take charge of her own life, she said. She started at a nearby community college and hopes to move on to a 4-year college once she knows what she wants to study. The shock hit our parents hard. I think they knew that taking care of Amy hadn't helped her. My parents have had a range of reactions to all of this. They were very angry with both of us at first. They said I turned Amy against them and tried to make her feel bad about it so she would quit college to help support the family. They tried something else when that didn't work. After having a few long talks with my grandmother and seeing how Amy had changed for the better, my mom began to understand how their actions had been hurtful. She has been taking small steps toward getting back together with him. She has even started therapy to work on her problems. I got a message from her saying she was sorry for being unfair and asked for a chance to make things right. The process is going slowly, and I'm cautiously hopeful, but I'm also setting clear limits. Sadly, my dad has been less ready to say he did anything wrong. He is still mad and thinks he is being hurt by everything. He doesn't talk to me much and hasn't been nice to Amy since she set her mind on going to college. He has tried to trick us by saying he will forgive us if we accept we were wrong, or by saying he will sell the house we grew up in if we don't change our minds. Even though we're both strong, it hurts to see him push both of his kids away like this. The relationships of extended families have changed a lot. I've grown closer to my grandmother and the brothers of my dad, who have been very helpful. Having my aunts and uncles talk about how they've dealt with my dad's bad behavior over the years has made me feel less alone in this battle. I've also grown closer to some of my cousins who were there for me. We've started having a cousin dinner once a month so that we can all meet up without having to deal with the drama of the older generation. As for me, I've been smart about how I spend my fortune. When I paid off my school loans, I felt like I had a lot of money in my pocket. I've put together a wide range of investments, with the help of a loan officer. I have also saved some money in case I want to start my own business someday. I'm thinking about starting a community center that gives low-cost classes on money management and mental health. But for me, the most important thing I've done with the money is pay for therapy and offer to do the same for Amy. We're both trying to get over the bad things that happened to us as kids and learn how to set good limits with our parents. It takes a long time. However, I already feel like I'm learning more about and getting over the effects of the long-term neglect and favoring. Unexpectedly, this whole thing has made some good things happen in my life. Set limits and stand up for yourself are two things I've learned a lot. It hasn't been easy, and some days are still hard, but I know I did the right thing. I'm proud of myself for not giving in to the guilt and pressure. One thing that surprised me the most was that my job goals changed. Going to therapy and dealing with all this family drama has made me understand how much I want to help other people who have been through similar family problems. This makes me think about going back to school to become a family therapist who specializes in helping adult children whose parents were not emotionally grown. I've also started mentoring kids from hard-to-reach families at a neighborhood youth center as a volunteer. It makes me so happy to be able to give kids the support and guidance I wish I had when I was their age. I might even use some of my inheritance to start a scholarship fund for kids in the same position as me. My relationship with Amy keeps getting better. Every month we do something fun together as a family. It's become a ritual. When we went camping and had a picnic last month, we felt the most at ease and close to each other since we were kids. We're slowly getting back together on our own, without the help of our parents. Things are still hard to understand. I've been trying to get along with my mom again. She's been going to therapy on a daily basis, and has even begun to realize that her favoritism hurts some people. During a few one-on-one lunches, we've talked about our past and how we can move on in an honest, if sometimes painful, way. It's not perfect, but it's a step forward. My dad, on the other hand, still doesn't want to change. He still says he didn't do anything wrong, and that Amy and I are not thankful. Because he won't be in the same room as me, he has missed a few family events. Even though it hurts, I'm learning to accept that I can't change how he acts or how he sees things. Grandma is now a rock for Amy and me. She has been telling us more stories about our grandpa and how proud he would be that we are strong. It's also been great having her help settle family arguments, always fighting for justice and understanding. This whole thing has taught me a lot about what family really means. I've learned that the family you choose can be better than the family you are born into sometimes. A lot of my aunts, uncles, and cousins helped me and became like family to me. Plus, I've made a close group of friends who have been incredibly helpful during this whole thing. I've also learned how important it is to take care of myself and set limits. I no longer feel bad about putting my own health first, and it's getting easier for me to say no to things that are bad for my mental health. It's even made me try new hobbies and interests that I had been putting off because I was so focused on getting my parents' approval. I want to tell people in the same position that they shouldn't feel bad about getting what's rightfully theirs. You can stand up for yourself even if it makes other people mad. Even though family relationships can be tough, you should always be treated fairly and with respect. Don't forget that it's never too late to get better and build the life you want. Please get help if you need it. Put yourself around people who will help you, and don't be afraid to set limits. How your family treats you doesn't tell you how valuable you are. Who you are does. Again, thank you to everyone who helped and gave advice. You have no idea how much it meant to me during a very hard time. Even though the road hasn't been easy, I feel more hopeful and sure of myself than I have in years as I look forward to the future. I can't wait to see where this new part of my life takes me. And I'm determined to stop the cycle of favoritism and make my future family ties healthier.